Could I start by just asking you what your take is on creativity? What does creativity mean to you?
We have only 15 minutes.
Yes, we have only 15 minutes. And they say that the parameters, the boundaries are ways of encouraging creativity, apparently.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can get creative. That's a coffee cup, a takeaway cup. And I didn't drink coffee for 40 years and just started in the last few months drinking decaf hemp milk lattes because they taste really good.
Yeah.
And I live in Ojai, California. There are probably 6. It's a little town, but within a square mile, there are at least 6 or 8 coffee places. But the most popular one is called Noso, N-O-S-O.
Okay.
And a couple of months ago, I asked the woman who started it, I said, where did you get the name Noso? What does that mean? And she said, it's short for nothing, something for nothing, something from nothing.
Okay.
And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I had this dream for years to start my own little coffee shop with a focus on positivity, with a place where people could come and connect and be reminded that they're a soul with a human experience, not a human with a soul, and where we'd have loving and kindness and friendship and communication and all good things. And I said, that's a great idea. She said, yeah, well, it started invisibly with an idea and a dream I had, and here it is. Now we have it. So I've created something from nothing.
And very often entrepreneurs do say that. They say they built their businesses from nothing. And it's interesting that you talk about dreams. There seems to be general consensus that creativity begins with some sort of dreaming or imagination or vision that is then people take action on it to add value, to, for it to be beneficial and to be useful. So do you find that dreams are the starting point for creativity?
I think you could call it a dream. It's invisible. For years I did leadership trainings and I called them inside out leadership. It wasn't about how to lead somebody else. It was about how to lead your own life, which has got to start internally. So a dream is one way to describe that source. It's and that's a way I love, because most, as kids, we had all kinds of dreams. I want to be a fireman, or, I want to go to the moon, or let's see if I can jump off that roof, or, we had those kind of things that moved us. I don't like the word passion, because one of the roots of it is suffering. Although most people don't think of the word passion that way, but it's kind of like that idea. Something I like better, enthusiastic. That the root of that word is hu, or thu, which is hu, an ancient Sanskrit word for God. So it's, or whatever name you want to call that invisible source that is the essence. So, my idea is that it's always inside out. And the problem, not the problem, but in the world we grew up with, we were taught the opposite. Take it from the outside in. Like, read this book, listen to me right now. I have the answers.
Yeah, and when you talk about dreams and you talk about children's dreams, it reminds me that, well, not all dreams are positive or beneficial. People always talk about children being highly creative, and children can be extreme bullies. They can be very cruel. They can have dreams that are very destructive. So how, where do these dreams come from? And, how can we distinguish between dreams that are life enhancing and dreams that are purely destructive?
Well, yeah, we each have free choice. It's too long a conversation, but free will once, but after that, free choice. And so part of the human experience is learning discernment and choose between the distinctions. So yeah, we have nightmares, and where do they come from? It's not like, well, I didn't want to have that nightmare. I didn't create that. Maybe yes, maybe no. That goes back into a karmic discussion. But when we become aware of that nightmare or that negative dream, we do have a choice about what we do with it. And I think the most practical thing I've learned that I teach is where we look is where we go. So my focus determines what I call reality. My focus very much directs energy, which is invisible again. But what I look at visually, what I say to myself, what I think about, all that we categorize as focus, directs the energy which manifests. It becomes real, and this is creativity. And all of us individually have this power. So here's my favorite example. Every parent has this experience, don't spill the milk. And what happens? The milk spills. It's not because the child is disobedient or clumsy or stupid or rebellious. It's because the parent hasn't learned how to give a good instruction. Because when you say don't spill the milk, what's the image that's created? Spilled milk. So we can't not do something. So like with the nightmares or the negative dreams or the fearful thoughts or the doubts or all of that negative stuff that comes up, we're not responsible for what comes into our mind, only what we hold there. So if that's true, and it is, what do I do when that negative stuff shows up? And it does constantly, and I don't think it's going to go away. In my whole life, it hasn't. And others report to me the same thing. I still have these negative thoughts, even though I work on it and I want to be positive, they still show up. I don't have to do anything with them. I can just notice and observe and watch. But if I choose to put energy into it, it begins that manifestation process. And that's the negative creation that so many of us deal with, the problems we have, the issues.
Yes. And I suppose that when people are worrying about something, they are using their imagination to create all the dreams, and then it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy that whatever it is that they were worrying about, for example, losing their job. So they start to behave in a way that causes them to lose their job because that's what they were expecting.
Exactly.
Behave that way.
No, exactly. I mean, that's very real. Like we all, any of us have done this work for years. Consistent through everybody's work is the idea of personal responsibility. I create, promote, or allow everything in my life, everything, right? Now, if that's true, even if it isn't true and we behave as though it's true, that's a lot of power. And that's very much how it is. So then we need to learn how we do that and how to do it differently. So what I've found is if I first want to focus on what I want, not how to get it. But if you go to the bookstore, the shelves are full of how-to stuff. Mm-hmm. So most of them are backwards. It's like, right. What specifically do I want, and describe it and just make it as positive, and what's the creative outcome I want? What would be my ideal scene? And develop that very real. And then where I look is where I go.
So you're looking at creativity, from what you've just said, it's very much of a psychological perspective. Do you think of, well, I know you do a lot of leadership outdoors, so that obviously includes the biological aspects. How do you perceive creativity in a holistic, in a broader sense?
Well, relating it to the outdoors, nature is the best classroom I've ever found. And if I just took a person and sat them there for 4 days, they're going to absorb so much awareness and learning, because all around them is truth. The way the natural design is, and what happens is, when we get in that environment, I found it takes at least 7 days. So I do 10 days. I've played with 2 weeks and 1 week. But after approximately 7 days, something shifts. And part of that shift is realizing I'm nature too. I'm part of this. And the way it works out there in the trees and the plants and the fish and the water and the sky and the rain and the snow and all is the way it works here too. I mean, it's all in that sense of oneness. It's you know, and I've taken hundreds of people up there, and everyone has the same or similar experience. They connect into this connection, this oneness.
Right, and that's a connection that transcends the mind. So
Absolutely,
that's what we need to do with it. That nature enables us to transcend the mind, as it were, the limitations of the mind.
Absolutely, yeah. No, you hit it. I mean, this brain mind has limitations, and yet the heart, or follow your heart, trust your heart, or that is boundless. There is no limitation. And so if we can center and guide, and now we know there's a heart intelligence. It's very real. I mean, a friend of mine is the president of a company called HeartMath. I don't know if you know their work, but oh, you got to check into it. It's the science behind the wisdom of the heart. And there's science behind it now for those who want that, want the head to be satisfied. But it's proof of what we've been teaching for as long as 40 plus years I've been in this, that there's a wisdom in the heart that far exceeds the brain mind. And if we tap into it, probably the most common way people know it is intuition, but that's not even the whole story.
Right.
Yeah.
I resonate with what you're saying, and I can understand that. And I'm at the same time, I'm thinking about the socio-cultural aspect, because somebody could go on one of these journeys with you into the wilderness and feel really connected with nature, and then they go back to the city and they go back to the constraints and the pressures that they were facing before they went out into the wilderness. And how do they deal with being back in the same space?
Practice. But that's very real. I mean, I've been doing these for a long time, and the biggest challenge for me is, how do I keep the wilderness inside when I go back out here into the mundaneness that I deal with every day, Well, it's a strong reference. Like the minute you talk about it, I have images. I tap back into associations and experiences, and I can bring it alive in me. And that assists me as I go through my day, and sometimes it's not easy. The day, the challenge of the day, and it assists me. I still haven't got to where it's the same as being there. So I make sure I return to the well and fill up. As soon as we hang up here, I got my running clothes on. I'm going to go, there's mountains around me and trails. I'm going to go run on the trails to get out of the civilized, the man-made stuff. I call it returning to the well. It's like I got to drink water every day.
Right.
Yeah.
You see, that's an essential aspect of creativity. It needs to be nurtured.
Really, meditation. I meditate every day. Take some quiet time, however you do that. I'm now teaching this in businesses, and I'm working with a medical school. Why? It's essential. If you want to maintain the level of creativity and keep producing and contributing, you got to renew, you got to restore. And to do that, you got to go inside, and do that, you got to get quiet. You got to get away from all this distraction, which is everywhere. And it's essential. I wish they would have taught us this in school.
And why don't they? That's a big question.
That's a good question.
So Terry, just to conclude then, final remarks.
I've done a lot of interviews over the years, and there's always a concluding question that's similar to this. Like if you could give one word of advice, or finally, sum it up or something. And I've always come back to the same or similar thing. If I could learn to be more loving, the rest would work. And so if I can do that, and I fail all the time. I mean, it's, even though it's been a focus and intention and all that, but I can get there more often, and I can stay there for longer periods. And just going that direction improves everything. So if it's creativity I want to focus on, I'll be more creative. You know, if it's make more money, I'll make more money. If, you know, I want my relationship to be more enjoyable, you know, have more fun. But if I return to that, and just with the intention of that, I don't even have to know how to do it perfectly. And I don't think I ever will do it perfectly. So, you know, that's, yeah, that's bottom to me. It's
excellent.
Intend to be more loving.
Okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've really loved this conversation with you. So thank you very much for taking care and being compassionate and sharing your wisdom with us.
Well, thank you. And all the best with your project. It's a good one.
Thank you.
I hope you keep us posted on the progress.
I definitely will.